back with our next class. So in today's class, we are going to discuss a very important topic, and that is pollen-pistil interaction. Alright, so let us start. See, first of all, when a pollen grain, it falls onto the stigma of a carpel, there are certain kind of interactions that occurs between the pollen and the pistil. Okay, so this whole journey of the pollen grain falling on the stigma, and then finally how the pollen grain will germinate, or whether it will be accepted or rejected upon by the pistil or not. Accordingly, if it gets accepted, how the pollen tube will form and how it will finally enter inside the ovule. This whole journey, which will lead to fertilization, will be termed as pollen-pistil interaction. Alright? So pollen falling on the stigma, pollen tube arising out in case pollen is accepted, and finally how the pollen tube will reach out inside the ovule. That the entire thing would be termed as pollen-pistil interaction. Alright? Now, first of all, when a pollen grain falls onto the stigma of the carpel, you already know that the pollen grains can be released in two states. Sometimes they will be released in 2-cell stage and sometimes in 3-cell stage. Rather, mostly in the 2-cell stage, isn't it? So if in case it is in 2-cell stage, we have a large vegetative cell and we have a smaller generative cell which will be floating on the cytoplasm of the vegetative cell, isn't it? So when the pollen grain, will fall onto the stigma of the carpel, first thing that will happen is that the pollen grain will absorb some kind of moisture from its surroundings. And then the cytoplasm of the pollen grain will swell up or will expand, due to which the pollen grain being swollen up now, it will start to release certain kind of proteins from within. Alright? These proteins released from the pollen grains will come and gather out here in the groove of the stigma. Now, in the groove of the stigma already there are certain proteins which are already present, and hence the proteins from the pistil and protein from the pollen, they have accumulated in this groove, isn't it? They will now start to communicate. They will now start to interact. It is as if a continuous chemical dialoguing is going on between the pollen and the pistil. Okay? It's a continuous chemical dialoguing between the pollen and the pistil. By this dialoguing itself, it will be decided whether the pollen grain is going to be a compatible one or it is not a compatible one. Fine? It is compatible or incompatible will be decided upon by these chemicals. Okay? So, in case, if the pollen grain is accepted, only then it will germinate. That means it will give rise to a pollen tube. Or else, if it is rejected, then the pollen grain will simply degenerate. Alright? Now, suppose in case I say that the pollen grain has been accepted, it has been found compatible. Okay? In case it has been found compatible, in that case, a pollen tube will start arising out from the pollen grain. The pollen tube will start arising out from one of the germ pore present in the pollen grain, and it will start moving downwards towards the ovary. Okay, it will start moving towards the ovary, towards the ovule. Now, see this. Suppose this is the pollen tube. The pollen tube, while it is migrating through the style, If the style is hollow, it can directly pass on by taking nourishment from the cells of the style. But in case the style is not hollow, rather it is solid, in that case the pollen tube will also keep on releasing certain enzymes. These enzymes will hydrolyze and make a passage for the pollen tube so that it can move through the style. Alright, this is a very, very important point. Now, next, as the content of the pollen grain runs into the pollen tube, do remember the whole content will remain at the tip of the pollen grain. The entire content of the pollen grain will run into the tip of the pollen tube. Okay? And in case the pollen grain has been released in the 2-cell stage, now the generative cell nucleus will undergo one round of mitosis. Okay? Generative cell nucleus will undergo one round of mitosis and eventually will give rise to 2 male gametes. 2 male gametes will be formed. Okay? In case already the pollen grain is in the 3-cell stage, then this step won't be happening. Already 2 male gametes will be present in the pollen grain. Okay? Now, another very important point is that while the pollen tube is migrating through the style, there will be certain occasional points at certain sites in the pollen tube, certain callus plugs would be formed. Okay, these callus plugs are mainly certain kind of you can say structures which are developed or which are made up of callus. Okay, so what is the need for these callus plugs? The callus plugs are mainly meant, okay, to differentiate the older parts of the pollen tube. Okay, to block the older parts of the pollen tube, the callus plugs are formed. Also, they help to maintain the cytoplasm, okay, which is now running, cytoplasm of the pollen tube, which is now running through the pollen tube. This cytoplasm should be maintained at the tip of the pollen tube. This is also done by callus plugging. Alright, so this is a very, very important point for you to remember, that while the pollen tube is migrating through the style, at certain sites in the pollen tube, certain callus pluggings will happen. This will separate or block the older parts of the pollen tube, and also it will maintain the cytoplasm at the tip, okay, at the apex of the pollen tube. Alright, now the pollen tube will start migrating. It is migrating, isn't it? As it is migrating, do remember, the migration of the pollen tube is always going to be chemotropic. Chemotropic means it will always move towards a chemical. Okay, it is always going to move towards a chemical. Now, which chemical or where exactly the chemical is being released? Now, do remember, in this ovule remains the embryo sac, isn't it? Well-developed embryo sac that is formed by megasporogenesis. You already have learned that in the previous class. So now, this well-developed embryo sac, suppose I am making it here. This is the salazal region and this is the micropylor region, isn't it? This is the egg apparatus, right? So these two are the synergids and this is the egg. Now, the wall of the synergids consist of certain finger-like projections, okay? Certain infoldings that would be present in the synergids. These are known as filiform apparatus, okay? Filiform apparatus. Filiform apparatus is the one through which certain chemicals will continuously be released from the embryo sac, and these chemicals will keep on releasing through the micropylori. Alright, these chemicals will keep on releasing through the microbiome. Alright, and this chemical would be sensed by the pollen tube. So the pollen tube will always start moving towards the microbiome. Fine, it will always start moving towards the microbiome by sensing such chemicals. That's why we say that the movement of pollen tube is chemotropic in origin. This is a very, very important statement, that the movement of pollen tube is chemotropic in origin. Alright, this much is clear, I guess. Now, see, now that we have talked about how the pollen will germinate and the pollen tube will arise out and eventually it will start moving towards the microbiome. Now let us see how the pollen tube will finally enter inside the ovule. Alright. Now this entry of the pollen tube inside the ovule can be of three types. Let me show you here. Entry of pollen tube can be of three types. Alright. First one is called porogamy, which is very, very common, which is the most common in the flowering plants. Suppose this is the ovule. I am mostly taking in my example Anatropous ovule because that is what is mostly found in flowering plants. So this is the Anatropous ovule. This being the egg apparatus, these are the antipodals, and these two are the polar nuclei, isn't it? So now, suppose the pollen tube is moving towards the chemical that is being released through the microbiome and it enters inside the ovule through the microbiome. If it enters inside the ovule through the microbiome, we call it porogamy. Okay, this is found in most flowering plants. Alright, now next type of entry is called salazogamy. Salazogamy. Alright, now see. Again, this is the ovule. Now this time, the pollen tube will enter through the salaza. It will enter through the salaza. Alright? But then it will start to move towards the microbiome only. And then through the microbiome and towards the synergid only it will move. Do remember that. Okay? Finally, the third and the last is called mesogamy. Okay, if you ask me the example here will be casuarina. Okay, so now the last one, mesogamy. Alright, in mesogamy, the pollen tube will enter through the integument. See, it is moving towards it is entering through the salaza here, it is entering through the microbiome here, so salaza through microbiome and here through integument. Alright, if it enters through the integument, we call it mesogamy. But again, after entering through the integument also, it is finally moving towards what? Towards the synergid, towards the micropyle it will have to take a turn. Alright, this is going to be common otherwise. Fine. Example will be cucurbita. Alright. So that means entry of the pollen tube is finally of 3 types. If it enters through the micropyle, which is the most common, it is sporogamy. If it enters through salazar, we call it salazogamy. If it enters through integument, we call it mesogamy. So after the pollen tube has entered inside the ovule, now what? Now, as you know, the pollen tube will finally move towards the synergids. Okay? Now there will be one synergid in the ovule which on entry, or sometimes even little bit before the entry of the pollen tube itself, it will start to degenerate. Okay? One of the synergid will start to degenerate. We call it degenerative synergid. And into that, or inside the degenerative synergid, the pollen tube will finally enter. It will penetrate. Alright? So that's how the pollen tube is going to enter inside the embryo sac. Here you have learned how pollen tube is entering the ovule. Now let me tell you how the pollen tube will enter inside the embryo sac. So see, the pollen tube will start moving towards the synergid, and by the time it reaches the synergid, okay, it will penetrate inside the synergid. There will be one of the synergid which will degenerate, okay, either on entry of the pollen tube or slightly before that, one of the synergid will undergo cell death, and that is known as degenerative synergid. So the pollen tube will enter inside the embryo sac, finally first inside the degenerative synergid, and as it enters inside the degenerative synergid, pollen tube's growth will stop. Now no more the pollen tube will grow. Okay? Rather, the pollen tube would burst and release all its contents inside the embryo sac. Okay? And in that content, the most important being the 2 male gametes. Okay? Vegetative cell content has no role to play. It's mainly the 2 male gametes that will now have to function. Now, one of the male gamete will fuse with the egg, because by then the synergids have degenerated. So now one of the male gamete will fuse with the egg and cause fertilization. Alright? And this will lead to the formation of a diploid zygote. Alright? On the other hand, the other male gamete will fuse with the 2 polar nuclei. Alright? And in case the 2 polar nuclei have already fused before and has formed a secondary nucleus, a diploid secondary nucleus, then the male gamete will fuse with the secondary nucleus. No matter what, if whether it is fusing with the 2 polar nuclei or it is fusing with the secondary nucleus, resultant is a triploid PEN, primary endosperm nucleus. Okay, it's called primary endosperm nucleus. So the first fusion, when the male gamete is fusing with the egg, causing fertilization and causing the formation of a zygote, that is known as syngamy. And the fusion of the male gamete with the 2 polar nuclei or secondary nucleus, leading to the formation of a triploid structure called primary endosperm nucleus, or PEN, is called triple fusion. Alright? And syngamy plus triple fusion is together known as double fertilization. Alright? So this is a very, very important thing for you to remember, which is a characteristic, feature of angiosperms. It is not found in any other type of plants, but only angiosperms. That is double fertilization and triple fusion. Alright? So this entire journey of the pollen grain falling on the stigma and all throughout its journey finally reaching inside the ovule and causing the fertilization will be together termed as pollen pistil interaction. Alright? So this is a very, very important topic. Okay? So let's So let me revise this once again for you. All of you listen very, very carefully and try to understand each and every important points. First of all, whenever a pollen grain falls onto the stigma of a carpel, it would absorb moisture from the surrounding and then it will swell up. On swelling up, it will release, the pollen grain will release certain proteins from within which will come and gather in the groove of the stigma. Already the groove of the stigma possesses certain proteins of its own. Now these proteins or these chemicals, they will now interact and decide whether the pollen is to be accepted or it is to be rejected. Alright? This is called chemical dialoguing between pollen and pistil. So finally, if the pollen grain is accepted, only then out of the germ pores present, one of the germ pore, the pollen tube will come out. Okay? And the pollen tube will start migrating through the style. In case it is hollow style, it will migrate smoothly. In case it is a solid style, in that case, it will release some enzymes to make a passage through it. As the pollen tube starts migrating, okay, certain of the parts of the pollen tube will start to get blocked due to callose plugging. Okay, and the entire content, cytoplasmic content of the pollen grain will be remaining at the tip of the pollen tube. Okay, now the pollen tube starts migrating towards certain chemicals that are being released by filiform apparatus, alright, which is present in the synergid. Alright, so that's why we say that the movement of the pollen tube is chemotropic in origin. Now, the entry of the pollen tube inside the ovule can be of three types. Either porogamy if it enters through micropyle, which is in most plants, or else salazogamy, whether in case it is going to enter through salaza, or else mesogamy if it enters through integuments. Upon entry, the pollen tube will move towards the synergid and will penetrate inside one of the synergid, which will lead to cell death. Okay, this is called degenerative synergid. Alright, and as soon as the death of the synergid occurs, pollen tube will no more grow. Its growth will stop and it will rupture or break down or it will burst. As it bursts, all the contents of the pollen tube will be released inside the embryo sac, and in that content, the most important being two male gametes, right? One of the male gamete will fuse with the egg, forming the zygote, that's called syngamy. The other one will fuse with the two polar nuclei or secondary nucleus, forming a triploid structure called PEN, primary endosperm nucleus. This is called triple fusion. Alright, and these two events, that is syngamy and triple fusion, together is known as double fertilization, which is a main characteristic feature of all angiosperms. So that's all regarding pollen-pistil interaction, and in today's class we'll also discuss two important terminologies. Number one is artificial hybridization and number two is in vitro pollen germination. So let us start. So now let us start with artificial hybridization. See, artificial hybridization is actually a crop improvement technique in which we make a cross between two different plants. These two plants can be of two different varieties or two different species or even genus. While we are trying to make the cross, we are actually trying to make a superior hybrid. Okay, so that means we are trying to make a plant which will have superior characters. Okay, for example, that will make it more simple for you to understand. Suppose in your area there are two types of plants which grows. One is disease resistant, but it does not have large sized or aromatic or sweet fruits. On the other hand, another plant, it has large sized fruits and aromatic and sweet smelling fruits, but it does not have disease resistance. So both are not very suitable for growing. In such a situation, don't you think this will be better if we can make a cross between these two plants and we can create a hybrid which is both disease resistant and which have high quality crops as well? Isn't it? So that's what can be done by artificial hybridization. Alright, let's see. what the technique is all about. Alright? So in artificial hybridization, first thing that you need to do is selection of parents. That is, we first choose the parental plants. Like in my example, one of the parent will be disease resistant one, another will be high quality crop, right? Second, you have to mark the plants as male and female. Alright? Because from one of the plant we'll be choosing or we'll be taking the pollen, and from another plant we'll be taking the egg or the ovule. Alright? So that's why we have to mark them as male and female. Now comes the most important step. Okay? It is emasculation and bagging. First, let me tell you what is emasculation. Emasculation means removal of anther, of course, from the female plant. Okay? Removal of anther. Before the anther can break down or it would burst to release the pollen, we have to remove the anthers carefully from the female plant or the female flower. Okay? Whichever we have chosen to be the female parent, from there we have to remove the anthers. And bagging. Okay? That means after emasculation, the flower should be immediately covered. Usually that is done by butter paper. Okay? We have to cover the emasculated flower immediately by a butter paper so that pollen grains from outside should not come and contaminate the flower or cause fertilization. Okay? So bagging means covering the emasculated flower with butter paper. Alright? So emasculation means removal of anther from the female plant or flower, and bagging means covering the emasculated flower with the butter paper so that pollen grains from some other source should not come and contaminate the flower, okay, and cause cross pollination. Okay. So what we have done so far? We have selected the parents, we have marked them as male and female, and mainly in the female plant or the female flower that we have chosen, we have emasculated it. That means removed all the anthers from that flower before they can burst and release the pollen grains, and we have also covered the emasculated flower so that pollen grains from some other source should not come and cause fertilization. Okay? Now what will happen? Now we will bring pollen grains from the male flower or the male plant. Whichever plant we have chosen as the male, from there we have to bring some pollen grains and we have to dust it off near the receptive stigma of the female flower. So pollen grains from male plant are taken and dusted off near receptive stigma of female flower or the flower which has been emasculated. Alright, now what will happen? Fertilization has been caused, so fruits are allowed to set. Of course, that fertilization has occurred, fruits will be formed, and the fruits will then possess the seeds. And these seeds will show desired combination of traits. Out of all the seeds that will be produced, if not all, at least a few of them may have desired combination of traits, right? That means a few of them may have already brought together the good qualities of the parents within itself, right? That means a few of the seeds at least will be disease resistant also and will be superior in its quality also, right? So that is how we will do artificial hybridization. That's how we will improve the crops. We will bring desired traits or characteristics of the parents and combine them in a hybrid. Alright? Now, very important point for you to remember here is that, very important, that in case the plant chosen is unisexual, then emasculation is not required. Alright, in case the plant that you have chosen, they bear unisexual flowers. In that case, of course, there is no need to remove the anthers to avoid self-pollination, isn't it? So in that case, emasculation step should be omitted. So that's it regarding artificial hybridization. The last topic we'll discuss today is in vitro pollen germination. So let's see what it is. So now, in vitro pollen germination. See, in vitro pollen germination, what we will be doing is that in laboratory, artificially, if you want to study how pollen grains will germinate, then you can use this method. Okay, this method is also known as hanging drop method. Fine. Here you will take a glass slide, you will put some chemicals onto the glass slide, and then on top of that you will be placing the pollen grains. Eventually the pollen grains will start to germinate, and of course then you can observe the slide under the microscope to study that. Fine. So what is to be done here? It's very simple. Take a glass slide, clean glass slide, and then at the center of the glass slide put a few drops of 10% sugar solution. Along with that, boric acid and calcium, magnesium and potassium salts. Okay, so your chemical is ready. Fine. Now, on top of it, you can bring a mature anther and you can dust off the pollen grains in this particular drop. Okay. After dusting the pollen grains, you simply need to wait for 15 to 30 minutes. Within that, you can see that the pollens will start to germinate and the pollen tube will start arising out. So your slide is ready to be observed under the microscope. So this method is also known as hanging drop method. Alright. So that much for today's class. In the next class, we'll start with post-fertilization events.